Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way to exit highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create, preserve, and grow your wealth. I'm your co-host, Pearson York, filling in for Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, real estate, business, and leadership individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. As always, we're streaming on the Expert CRE Secrets podcast and the Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel. So please rate, review, subscribe, hit that like button. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Our next guest is a leader in leadership and leadership training, and we're going to get a ton of value out of him. So please welcome Nicky. Nicky, how you doing, man?
Pearson, I'm awesome, brother. Thanks for having me on the show. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nicky, why don't you give us just a brief, 1 minute background on yourself?
I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When the Islamic Revolution happened, my late father, God rest his soul, could see the writing on the wall. And he made a plan and took his family out of Iran and brought us to where we eventually settled in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I thank God every day for Dad having the foresight to take us out of tyranny and bring us to freedom. My dad was a big believer in freedom and free enterprise and free expression, as am I. He was the greatest man I ever knew. He's the kind of man that uplifted people. He was into personal development, meditation, visualization back in the 40s and 50s. He brought that love of business and that love of people to me. He always used to tell me, son, life isn't about money or numbers. It's about people. Remember, the person you're dealing with is someone's father, someone's son, someone's brother, someone's wife, someone's daughter, someone's sister. Make sure that you're all about serving those people. That's kind of a 1 minute background of Nicky Ballou. I'm all about making a difference for my fellow man and my fellow woman.
What an awesome testimony, man. So sounds like your father was really ahead of the times.
He was a great man, brother. He was a great man. He loved to uplift people. If you knew him and you were looking for work, he'd find you a job. If you were trying to start a business, he'd help you start a business. If you worked for him and you were trying to buy a car or a house or an apartment, you didn't have enough money, he'd give you the money to do it. I mean, it was just unbelievable, the kind of man that he was. And there's people today who still come to me and speak about my dad to me in reverential tones, and just tell me what an incredible human being he was. I always wanted to be like him. That's why I got into entrepreneurship. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to help people. Yeah. And here's the first thing I saw as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of good people that go into business and they're good human beings and they're good at doing what they do, but they're not great business people. You know what I mean? They don't have an understanding of, marketing, sales, hiring, firing, balance sheets, tax implications, any of that stuff. And I came from an entrepreneurial and business family, so I knew this stuff. And I studied business in school. So I got into the business of helping entrepreneurs who were good at what they did, but weren't good business people become, good business people so they could run their businesses and grow them. And in particular, I was really keen on helping people with sales and marketing. A lot of people don't like to sell. They're scared of selling. They don't want to come across as pushy or salesy. And the problem is, though, that by doing that, they don't go after business they legitimately should go after. They miss out on tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even millions of dollars for that reason. And I saw this and it really bothered me because, I look at sales as love. Like, I only sell if I love somebody, and these folks look at it as a terrible thing. So I thought, what if we could reframe selling to serving? You don't want to be sold, and I don't want to be sold. To be served by somebody good when I'm buying. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I taught people. A big part of helping people reframe and rewire their minds around this issue really was around making sure that they took the attention off themselves and put it on the other person, put it on their prospect, put it on their potential client. And just doing that, and it's, obviously easier said than done. It takes time to rewire your thinking. That helped people double, triple, quadruple, even centuple their income. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the title that we had is how to add 1 to 2 zeros to your annual income, through leadership and,
Thought leadership.
before we
Yeah.
dive into that, let's, oh, that's an interesting distinction. Let's break this down though. But first, tell us a little bit about 1 or 2 spiritual gifts or strengths that you have that have led you to be successful.
Well, my father was a devout Christian, right? And to me, that really is the bedrock of my life and the bedrock of my faith. I believe in God. I believe in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I believe that if I give all the glory to God, He'll use me as His instrument to help Him be successful. I do prayer. I do meditation. I do all sorts of things really to help shut down the chattering monkeys that go off in my head and help me be more open to the beautiful messages that come to me from God if I'm just awake enough to listen.
Yeah, so it sounds like, really taking to heart that Matthew 6:28, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and
Amen,
I'll also
brother.
be given to you.
Amen, brother.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. That's honestly a struggle that I've been having recently, is trying to integrate business into Jesus and not Jesus into business. And it's a tough distinction to do,
Happy to talk to you about that outside of the podcast, because I know we've got a time limited show, but that's
yeah.
an important thing we like to do for our clients. We say to people, you shouldn't have to compromise your Christian values in order to be a successful businessman or businesswoman.
No, absolutely not. Because what's interesting is, and maybe we can tie this in, because you made a distinction between leadership and thought leadership. So why don't you define thought leadership and differentiate it from leadership?
Absolutely. So the best way to understand thought leadership is actually by drawing a distinction between thought leadership and expert status. So an expert is someone who knows something, but experts are a dime a dozen. A thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Thought leaders are rare and valuable. Another way to put it is an expert is like a cover band, while a thought leader plays original music. So I'll give an example. There are 2 professors from the University of Toronto. Both of them are in the arena of psychology, social and personality. Both of them have advanced degrees from top-level universities. One of them got his advanced degree from Cornell University. The other one got his advanced degree from McGill University in Montreal. So one of them's an expert, one of them's a thought leader. I'm going to tell you their names, and you tell me which one's the expert, which one's the thought leader. First one is Dr. Jason Plax. The second one is Dr. Jordan Peterson. Which one's the expert, Peterson, and which one's the thought leader?
Peterson. Thought leader?
Peterson's the thought leader. Exactly. Why? Because that man has had his videos watched 4 billion times. If you want to hire him to do a speech, it's going to cost you around $100,000 per appearance. His books have sold millions upon millions of copies. He is known as a champion for common sense thinking in the world of psychology, and a champion for men and manhood. And I got to tell you, that man has put himself out there and been seen and known as the expert in his field. Jason Plax, same field, isn't really all that well known outside of the world of academia. And if you're wanting to understand how thought leadership can help you, well, as a thought leader, you're going to be known in your space for who you are and what you do. So I'll give you an example of some prominent business people who are truly thought leaders. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Richard Branson. I know you know who those folks are. I know you understand what they do and what type of value they bring to the world. They're bigger than their company brands. Richard Branson is almost with Virgin Brands, right? Big as Richard Branson. Steve Jobs is synonymous with Apple. Apple is still going strong 11 years after this man's death, based on the strength of his thought leadership. And Elon Musk owns Tesla and he owns Twitter right now, right? And he's bigger than both of those brands, and he's driving the growth of both of those brands. There are people today who are divesting themselves from their investments in companies like Google and Apple and investing in Tesla because of Elon Musk. People buy the products of Tesla because of Elon Musk. People have joined Twitter again in droves because of Elon Musk. And the power of thought leadership for you is thought leadership will have you stand out. Now, think about this. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a client, young man, 25 years old. Okay, really good fellow, clean cut, good looking man, good man, fitness coach. Good at what he did as a fitness coach. Horrible businessman. He had 7 clients. He made $1,200 a month in the most expensive city in Canada, Toronto. Okay. So when I met him, he was introduced to me because his business was failing. And I asked him, okay, his name was Dan. I said, Dan, buddy, tell me, who do you help? And he said, oh, Nikki, I can help anybody. I'm like, no, Dan, that doesn't really work. No, but I can really help anybody. I can help him lose weight. I can help him add muscle. I can help him go into competition. I can do it all. And I'm like, oh, my God. So you can work with anybody with a wallet and a pulse? And he just went, ha, that's funny. I guess so. I said, no, that doesn't work. You got to narrow your focus. Narrow. He goes, all right. Tell you what, my dad's a doctor. I love my dad. And doctors make a lot of money. Let's go work with doctors. And I'm like, that's your message? Doctors make a lot of money and I love my dad? I don't think that's going to work. He's like, no, we're doing it. Sure enough, it didn't work. I said, Danny, we gotta narrow some more maybe. And he goes, okay. I got it. Cardiologist. Narrowing some more. They make more money than doctors. I'm like, oh my God, this kid's not getting it. Sure enough, it didn't work. And then all of a sudden, the good Lord brought a man to Danny who was a Paralympian athlete, missing legs since childhood. The two of them, they hit it off. They did good things together. This fella went into competition and he won medals. They wrote a book together. Para Tough. Danny comes to me and goes, Nikki, oh my God, I got it. You've been telling me don't go after the money, go after the people, go after being of service. And I just wasn't listening. I get it now. I think I want to work with people with missing limbs. I know how to serve these people. And I said, that's a great idea. Nobody else was going after him. He got 400 clients in 6 weeks. He was making $1,200 a month. He added not one, but 2 zeros to his monthly income. He was making over $100,000 a month as a personal fitness coach. You think about that. Those guys don't make a lot of money, generally speaking. Certainly don't make $100,000 a month. Most of them don't make $100,000 over 3 years, never mind a month. But that's what Danny did. Why? Because nobody else was going after people with missing limbs. They were all thinking, oh, no, these guys can't work out. Forget it. They were wrong. Danny knew better. And those folks were like thinking, I can't do everything somebody who's able-bodied can do. But Danny was like, the heck you can't. Sure you can. Let's make it happen for you. And that's how come he was able to get 400 people to work with him. He stopped going after the money, and the money came to him by the grace of God.
So this idea of thought leadership is really this idea of service and going after the things that it's, the old, what is it, Zig Ziglar, is help enough people get what you want or they want and you'll get what you want kind of thing.
Yeah, President Reagan used to say that too.
So, I mean, okay, how do you transition from just normal, leadership? There's a million books on leadership right now. How do you transition from just a leader to a thought leader? And is thought leader synonymous with servant leader?
It's not. It doesn't have to be, but honestly, the way we practice it, yes. And we have another thing, a designation we created called heart leader, which is essentially a lead from your heart and come from a space of caring that you do. Thought leadership, original thinking, to be of service to people in a way that really helps them solve their problems. Because you know what, Pearson, the key thing you got to understand is, what is business about after all? Business is about people. It's about solving problems for people for profit. PPP, I call it Nikki Billow's, 7-figure 3P, solve acute problems for awesome people and you make an amazing profit. If you do that, you're in the bonus land. You know, you're doing great because you've done amazing things for people. You've solved problems. People who go into business and start talking about themselves, when you ask someone what they do, they'll say, well, I'm a realtor and I'm the biggest and the best and it's been in the business the longest. And your eyes will glaze over after a few minutes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But if someone asks you, what do you do as a realtor? And you say, I help high net worth individuals find investment and tax mitigation strategies through real estate that allow them to build wealth for the long haul for themselves and their families. Now, that's a lot more interesting because if I'm a high net worth individual, I'm going to go, really? How do you do that? And that's a much better response than me going, oh, another realtor.
Sure. Yeah, it was this is an interesting case study right here because I was writing out a script for a cold calling campaign. And one of the things that we do here with Capital Gains Tax Solutions is we help high net worth individuals defer the capital gains tax on the sale of a highly appreciated asset so they can reinvest the funds. What's nice about it is there's a huge difference between what we can do, right, and what people know about. Typically, people know about the 1031 exchange, right? And the 1031 exchanges are awesome, but there's definitely some pitfalls with a 1031 exchange. Have you done a 1031?
No, I'm in Canada, so that doesn't really apply to us here.
So in United States, right, we have this law. It's a 1031 exchange. It basically means that you can sell an asset or a property. Typically, it's investment property, and it really only applies to investment property. And then basically transfer that into another property. And the problem is you got 45 days to figure out which property it is. They call identifying, and 180 days to close. So you're in this time constraint. And the other thing is you gotta sell the asset, and then immediately you have to, go buy a new one. But it's got to be the same type of asset. So if it's investment real estate, it's got to be investment real estate. It doesn't really work for anything else. So you have these really like tight time constraints. But it's the biggest thing out here. Everyone who is a savvy business real estate guy is like, oh, I have 1031, 1031, 1031. And they can be great. Don't get me wrong. There's serious advantages to it if you can find the right deal. Challenge is you sell high and you buy higher 180 days later. So what we offer is a solution that allows the person to sell any asset, not just investment real estate, but a business or stock or crypto or primary home or investment real estate. Doesn't matter. Even a racehorse, anything that's highly appreciated. And they can defer the tax and then reinvest the proceeds in whatever they want, including stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, businesses, crypto, whatever they want. They can reinvest the funds. It's kind of like they get to basically just put it into a self-directed IRA account and invest however. So I came down here to Newport Beach, California, which is where it's super high net worth people live, right? Thinking, okay, well, I got an idea. Like, I'll go after all these people that have, super high net worth homes, help them defer their tax because this guy bought, property for $600,000 in the 90s. It's worth $8 million on the sand right now. And that's a $3 million tax if he sells that property. I can solve that problem. So I've been toying with how to actually position this because, I underestimated going in there as a 31-year-old punk, right? Telling these super high net worth people how to basically like defer a bunch of tax and they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And, they don't want to listen to me right now. Why should they? So I've been crafting this different script. And it's basically like I kind of turned it to, hey, we're a group of business, finance, and real estate consultants that assist high net worth individuals to reposition their equity. And I've been trying to play with that a lot more than, I'm a real estate agent. Because you're absolutely right.
That's better. That's better, but you're still talking more about you. And what you want to do, and like I said, we can set up an offline conversation for this, because it's, to properly discuss this will take more than a few minutes. But I'll tell you flat out, people don't buy their way into something. They buy their way out of something. Let me repeat that. People don't buy their way into something. They buy their way out of something. They're not buying your program, your system, your advice, your expertise. They're buying their way out of a problem they perceive they have.
Right.
Your job as a salesman is to help them perceive the problem to the point where it is no longer acceptable to have that problem. You with me?
Yeah.
That is your job. You talk too much about yourself early on, they're not interested. They don't care. They really don't care. You don't care. You don't care about me. You don't care about my program. We met. You're a good man. You're a Christian. I'm a Christian. We're brothers in Christ. All that's great. But the only reason you'll want to have a conversation with me is, can this man help me solve my problem? And if I am smart in how I interact with you, the entire conversation is going to be me asking a lot of good questions about your problem and then determining if I'm the right person to solve it. Now, it's also really important for your listener to understand that if I'm not the right person to solve it, I need to be very upfront and honest about that right away. Trying to fit a round peg in a square hole never works. Never works. You gotta be helping people you can help. But if you can help that person and you refuse to because of some fear that you have that they're going to think you're pushy, that's crazy too. Because God puts people in front of you to make a difference for them, and that really is the bottom line. I'll tell you a last story to wrap up with. And like I said, I would love to set up a time to speak to you offline about this once the interview's over. But there was a woman who was introduced to us a few years ago. She was the country director for Canada for one of the largest and oldest personal development firms in the world. Now, she came to us because she had brought someone on board to help her run the company whom she thought was very talented. And at first, it was great, but after a while, the two of them didn't see eye to eye. Kind of like Steve Jobs with John Scully back in the day with Apple, right? Mm-hmm. And just like Steve and John, she got kicked out of her own company, just like Steve Jobs got kicked out of his own company. And you might think, how can someone get kicked out of their own company? Well, very possible with boards of directors and things like that, right? She was lost for 18 months, bereft. When she came to us, she just didn't know how to put it together. She just knew she had to figure it out. So we poured into her. We loved on her. And we showed her how to get a great message out there. We showed her how to go after the right, avatar. And lo and behold, in her first month of working with us, she made 10 grand. In her second month, she made 12 grand. In her third month, she made 18 grand. In her fourth month, she went crazy and made $62,200. Now, keep in mind, This is as a solopreneur, solo practitioner coach. Wonderful amount of money and profit for herself. And anyways, she lives in Ottawa. I live in Toronto. That's a 5-hour drive. And my oldest son, he plays soccer, or as I like to call it, the real football, because you actually play it with your feet. And he had a tournament in Ottawa, right? I called her up and I said, hey, I know you got a son my boy's age. We're coming to Ottawa for this tourney. Would you guys like to come watch a game with us and maybe grab some lunch? And she said, sure. And we did that, and it was incredible and amazing, Pearson. And anyways, went back home. A few weeks later, we had one of our branded thought leader immersion workshops. This is where we show people how to add that 1 to 2 zeros to their income. And we were at the point in the program where I did my upsell to the new folks, right? I show them how they can work with us. And the way I do it is I have one of our people come and share their experience. So I said, who'd like to share? And before I could even pick anybody, she just leaps on stage and says, me. I'm like, all right, go for it. And as soon as she got on stage, Pearson, she started to cry. And I mean, bawl. Inside, I'm like thinking, what did I do wrong? How did I mess this up, right? Outside, I'm calm. And my lady, she comes up and gives her a box of tissues, and she blows her nose, and then she looks at me and says, Nikki, you didn't know this, but when you and your little son came to visit me and my little son asked me, Mommy, who are we going to go meet? And I said, oh, we're going to go meet Nicky Ballou and his son. And she said, all of a sudden, my sweet little boy got very quiet, very serious, and said, oh, Mommy, are we going to go meet the man who saved our family? And brother, I started to bawl. We both hugged, and she said, between her tears, Nikki, you didn't know this, but when I came to you, we hadn't paid our mortgage in months. Bank was about to foreclose on our home. My husband and I were fighting like cats and dogs every day about money in front of our 3 small kids. And it looked like we were going to break up and I was going to lose my precious family. And I know God put that lady in front of me. And I know that God intended for me to be the instrument of his will to help her and her family stay together. You know,
Yeah.
My own family went through a breakup and I wasn't able to keep it together. So I've made it my mission to be of service to families. And what you got to understand is, like my father said, life is about people, not numbers, not money. And as long as you keep that in mind and you look for people to serve, beautiful things are going to happen for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My wrap-up
awesome
story, brother.
Awesome testimony. So Nikki, where can people find you? Because I'm sure they're going to be
eCircleAcademy.com is the best place. I mean, you can go on social media, Amazon for my books, all that jazz, but eCircleAcademy.com. And there is eCircleAcademy.com/appointment for anybody who's a business owner and wants to have a conversation about what's going on in their business. And they want to like get better at the game of business, especially marketing and sales, so they can take it to another level. That's the best way to do it. All of that's free. There's no obligation, no payments required. I just want to have good conversations with good human beings. And I'm looking for the next person God intends for me to help.
What an awesome testimony, man. I love it. If you guys want to learn more about Nikki, eCircleAcademy.com. Go there, check it out. If you want to add 1 to 2 zeros to your annual income through thought leadership, he's definitely got something really unique. And we haven't had too many thought leaders coming on the podcast. So appreciate your time and all that. And if you guys are interested in anything that we talked about with the Deferred Sales Trust and you want to learn more about that, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We have a mastermind every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can go to the website and sign up for it. It's a great place to come and just connect, ask questions, and just basically get to know us and learn more about this whole structure and whatnot. So great place for you guys to come. Nikki, any final words?
Believe that God intends good for you, even in crazy times like this. And if you don't have that belief, borrow mine.
There you go. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust, connecting with people like Nikki Ballou for thought leadership to increase your revenues, your businesses, but not only that, but increase your impact on the world and the people that you come in contact with. And that's the main thing. So if you guys are interested at all in that, make sure you check that out. Keeping the main thing, and that's the people that you come in contact with and serving. So check out Nikki's website, eCircleAcademy.com. Check out our website, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Please rate, review, subscribe, hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. It really helps us out. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.